Join us right now to give us his perspective is John Keim. He covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. He jumps on the Rude Guest Hotline. Rude, the most reliable heating and air conditioning products in the DMV. Hey, John.
What up, guys?
So One of the things we were talking about in the first hour was the defense, right? Defense gives up 435 yards of offense, 34 points, and it's early in the year, but last season they couldn't stop the run. They've been a little bit better stopping the run, but now all of a sudden they can't stop the pass and they can't get consistent pressure.
Exactly, and that's a problem. And even the first couple of the two wins they did, even against for the most part they've done a decent job, a solid job against the run in the other games. Yesterday, just okay at best, right? But it's always been the troubling part. Even going into this game, I felt like, well, if they let Atlanta hit these plays early, it's going to be a problem. And they did. And it's a constant fooling, whether it's the fooling of the eyes, whether it's the, a few guys know the assignment and one guy gets it wrong. That keeps happening. And it happened yesterday. And it was time and again. And it's oftentimes due to the late motion be right before the snap. That, when you have to really test the rules of your defense and your communication and making sure you're, quote, all on the same page, and that keeps being an issue. And until it gets fixed, it's going to be an issue. And it's something that could really, obviously going to impact this season in a bad way.
Yeah, I believe all of that, John. It's super annoying, though. It's supposed to be like this is a veteran team. And, they're largely intact from last season. I've heard more fans, and listen, I know you're not one to point fingers at coaches or anything, but I've heard more fans call out Joe Witt yesterday afternoon, than in the last year and a half. Is there anything different that they could do scheme-wise, or is it simply just execution on the player's part?
I think you can always do something better with that, because if there's nothing you can do, then they're in trouble. So it's hard. It's hard to just say, okay, is it the coach? If I'm watching, on one pass play where there's a late motion and Jeremy Reeves is running up from the safety position, yelling at the corner, Trey Amos, clearly pointing out something and communicating something, and Amos looking at him and clearly must hear him, and then they both go to the same guy. And that's when Kyle Pitts caught the 26-yard pass. Who is that on? Is that like now? And this is not absolving blame. It's like, but who is that on? If one guy knows what to do and the other guy doesn't, or is it sometimes a matter of like, okay, in these situations against Green Bay, that the late motion and they would get out leverage, and like, is there a way to mitigate that? Well, yeah, there has to be, because otherwise teams would do it every week against everybody. And so is it the matter of, adjusting the rules of your defense? Is it a matter of like not playing as much certain coverages? Things like that, switching, communication, that's all part of it. So it's really hard. So yes, I think there's a way you can do that. I don't know that I'm smart enough to say what they should do with it, but if you can't fix that, then what are you doing?
There seem to be two glaring issues. And again, I would know the first way to scheme up a defense. I'll be the first one to tell you, but I have no idea. But it seems like, first of all, give credit to Penix. He got rid of the football pretty quickly, I thought. Like on point, got rid of the ball, hit the guys.
Because guys were wide open.
Guys were open, but we also weren't pressuring enough.
Right, no. Yeah.
But it's hard to pressure when a guy gets rid of the ball pretty quickly. I thought he got rid of it pretty quickly. Yeah. The other part, though, John, is they seem to be making a point, and I don't know if it's through switching, rub routes, whatever. It's all over my head. But, Bobby is so exposed in the passing game.
Well, on the one especially, that, again, late motion, and it takes the traffic right to him. And it was basically, it's a designed rub on him, and he had trouble getting out of that traffic. But the other thing, even with the Penix, as you said, like, he was going into the game when he would hold the ball for 2.5 seconds or more, his accuracy went way down, his passer rating went way down, yesterday he was 8 for 12 on throws where he had 2.5 more because he wasn't getting moved off his spot, and that goes back to pressure. Mm-hmm. And there were a lot of times that when I'm rewatching it now, like there were enough times early in the game where there were 6-man protections against 4-man rushes. And so like that was, but I don't know how consistent that was throughout the game. Like I have to still see that. But yeah, but with Bobby, I mean, that's something that as he's gotten older, that was, when he was in Seattle, that was the last time, that was the one thing where say, yeah, he can still do this and this. This aspect is a little bit harder. And then I think when you put it where there's all that traffic, it's going to make it even harder. So, but that was a well-designed play, but yeah, I mean,
what's the counter?
That's an area.
I mean, other than just having Bobby on the sideline in obvious passing situation, like what do you do?
I think that's all. I don't think you can. I think that would be very hard to do. And there were other times where they ran a similar, where he had to cover Bijan where it wasn't an issue. Mm-hmm. So I think either you live with that or honestly, I don't know, because it's going. Other teams will do it, and that's can be a problem, but I don't know if it's as simple as, putting someone else in there, with his experience and all that always matters. So, but that was a rough play.
John, the Commanders with the 5th worst pass defense in the league through the first 4 games. Lattimore and Sanders still off to rough starts. I know Sanders still with the pick, but they have generally underperformed. And look, those are your best guys.
Those are your starting corners.
Like, what do you do going forward if it's this bad with them out there on the field?
What can you do?
I don't. I mean, this is who they have. Yep. So I don't. With Marshawn gets a lot of penalties. We've seen that, and he's very aggressive on those double moves. And even this summer, the one question was like, how is he moving and this and that. Like you saw how he was moving, because the injury history, right? Like. Would he be durable? And he felt he was moving well. They felt he was moving well. What you never saw was against like the kind of receivers he's going to face, because the only guy he could face in practice who was of that caliber was McLaurin, and he wasn't there. So you didn't have you knew he was moving better, but what does it mean? But then like yesterday, the Drake London one, just a double move and then you grab him. So you get a penalty and you give up a deep ball. That's been happening consistently. So, I don't know, like there's no answer in terms of replacing him. Right. So, so that's where it's like, can you do things differently, whether with your scheme? Because when you're on the field, like you can give all the coaching points you want, but when you're on the field, it comes back down to the individual and how they react in that situation. So, I don't know that that's going to change. I think the way, honestly, it kind of goes back to the way you can help them is to generate more pressure. Mm-hmm. And if you're not doing that consistently enough, then it's going to be a tough road in the pass game. I don't, and you're going to face much, better passing offenses coming up, and that's going to be tough.
Talking to John Keim from ESPN.com, covers the Commanders. All right. You may not have the answers, but I at least want to get your perspective. What is the latest on Jaden, and what is the latest on Terry McLaurin?
So for Jaden, there's definite optimism about him for Sunday. I think with anything when you're in that situation, it's like just see how it looks on Wednesday, right? But there's definitely optimism for him on Sunday. Terry, I don't know that it's there yet, and I think we'll get more of an update on him today from Dan Quinn, or most likely get a better update probably on Wednesday. But of the two, there's definitely more for Jake Daniels.
Yeah, have you even seen Terry like in the last few days? Yeah,
I have not.
Right.
I mean, we wouldn't have seen him obviously in Atlanta, but we did not see him at the facility. No.
Right. Hey, John, and you're right up about the Commanders. I think you put it perfectly as far as Marcus Mariota. You said it's his most pedestrian outing since signing with Washington ahead of last season. Only passed in the mid 150s. Was reluctant to run the ball. Like we've talked about Marcus Mariota being a very good backup, but he's a good backup that you want to use in spot starts. A start here, 1 or 2, maybe 3 starts. But then people start figuring him out, and he's still a little bit limited. Like, is that what we're starting to see with Mariota with the 2 starts under his belt now?
A little bit. Now, I will say this. They scored – what they did yesterday on offense was good enough to win.
Definitely.
It's 27 points, and you don't have – like, you look at the 2 out, like, they had Bijan Robinson, who was an explosive player. And they have, Kyle Pitts, London. Like, these guys weren't trotting those guys out there. Debo, obviously very good, and Zach Ertz, still a good tight end, but not – he wouldn't describe him as explosive at this point. So, like, you take that away, it's going to affect any quarterback. But, and there were a couple of times where I felt like Atlanta did a nice job putting pressure on him. They don't have that stud pass rusher, but they had a few guys who could rush and hurt you. And I think that impacted him. But yeah, I know it's, I still think if McLaurin plays, if you have your full allotment, like, he can still go out there and certainly play well for you. But they didn't have that explosiveness out there. And that's one of the things that Jayden gives you. That's more, of course.
What did you think about, obviously Debo was big, like he has been. McCaffrey has his second touchdown reception.
Gotta give McCaffrey credit.
I'll give him credit.
He's stepping up.
I'll give him credit.
Right.
Jalen Lane almost fumbled that punt.
Twice.
Twice, exactly. Ertz didn't have many catches, and he had the false start. I don't know if he had 1 or 2 false starts, but he overall, what do you think of the receivers?
Again, like, we know what Debo is like.
Yeah.
There's just not a lot of explosiveness yesterday, right?
Right.
I do think, like, McCaffrey, and a lot of his contribution came as a returner. And the touchdown was a good touchdown, good route, create separation at the top. But then beyond that, there wasn't a whole lot. And I felt like the Falcons secondary going into the game was pretty good in coverage. So I was a concern of mine. I was actually surprised that they scored 27 points, given what they were missing, given how the Falcons D had been playing to that point. But you take away your top receiver, and we've talked a lot about, like, the depth of the receiver position, but it's not like you're stashing explosive guys as your 5th receiver either, But yeah, I don't. It wasn't there.
Yeah, so, I feel like JK. I don't know how you feel about this, but I feel like McLaurin's going to be out for a while. You may feel differently, but when JD comes back, I feel like, because of everything you pointed out, I feel like JD's going to have to run more. And they we thought they might want to scale it back based on all the hits he was taking last year and obviously this year, but I feel like he's still going to have to run. I think
he will. Yeah. But I don't know. And when you say a while, like, the one thing I know is, when it happened, just based on things that you saw, like, well, okay, I don't think it's serious, and serious to me is going on IR.
Right.
And he wasn't placed on IR. So, like, I think I could, is he out this week?
Okay.
Perhaps is he back next week? So I don't know how much longer beyond this week it would be.
Okay.
But yes, I do think that, with Jayden, the explosiveness is the legs part of it. And it's also, but that's obviously going to be a part of it. So, and it'll have to be, because they need somebody who can create things, and they don't, but they'll get they've had a couple explosive runs the last couple of weeks. And that's been a big help to this offense. So, and I think the other key too is, like, again, this was the fear yesterday, like, you're falling behind. And that's where the defense comes back. Like, to me, so much of this goes back to the defense. Like, the offense, you can look at it and say, okay, you don't have this, and this. There's injuries here. There's this and that. The defense, like, they've lost a couple of players, but it shouldn't impact them the way it has. And, that's where, like, whatever the offense does, like, it's the defense has to play better.
They have to play better, as John said. Yeah. Right now, they're ranked 28th against the pass, 24th overall in yardage. Thanks a lot, John. Talk to you next week.
So I don't think I had a lot of great answers today, but I'm not sure that.
Hey, it's Misery Monday. It is what it is.
So I apologize. Thanks,
no, you're fine. The team doesn't have answers. How can you have all of them?
Thank you, buddy.
It's John Keim, covers the Commanders for ESPN.com. Coming up next, we'll hit the Skins, play some of the audio from DQ and others as we talk about the Commanders' latest loss. They dropped to 2-2 after losing to the Falcons 34-27.